All heck just broke loose because Ross Mahoney just brought out his Stanley Cup ring. We don't see a lot of those around here. You want to put the camera on, Kel? I don't know if they're able to zoom in. Look at that. Thank you, Ross, for bringing it, because you don't travel with it very much, do you?
Never.
This thing's the size of my head.
It is a special day that, would you mind handing it over here when you're done, Kel?
Oh, jeez. It's like Fred Flint, like the Flintstones.
Which episode was that?
Well, they got the big ring.
Look at this. Wow. Well, this is a very special day. I tried to take a picture of it, but it didn't do it justice. We're talking hockey on this Tuesday. We did have breaking news. We were going to delve into it, but we'll save that for a little later. The news is that Brian Peters, Grey Cup winning linebacker with the Rough Riders and long snapper, former Houston Texan and Minnesota Viking, has signed with the XFL's Houston Roughnecks. The XFL's number one team are the Houston Roughnecks. And BP, who's been on this show, is heading back down to Houston to play in the XFL. We'll get around to the football talk later, because we don't get royalty like this in the bunker very often. Ross Mahoney with us. This is the first time you've been in here, right, Haas?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you. So, how are things with you? You've been keeping the road hot as usual?
Yeah, no, I just finished a trip over from Europe. I went from the trade deadline in Washington to over to Helsinki, and then I was in Gothenburg, and then on to Stockholm, and then to Munich, and then to Berlin, and came home last night.
You love it?
Yes, I do. Yeah, it's they're paying me to watch hockey games. It's pretty good.
You've never complained. I've never known you to complain. Here's my first question for you, because I know Kelly will have a million. And by the way, you Capitals fans, get your questions coming in on the Facebook wall. The chase for Wayne's record. Ovi, is he going to catch Wayne? What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, that's such a hard thing to achieve, but it's amazing what Ovi's done. And even if you look at his age, but 48 goals this year. So I mean, you would have thought it was not achievable, but I'm not sure. I think he's got a chance.
What's the breakdown now? He's got to score 40 a year for 5 years, something like that, to hit it.
Around there, yes, yeah. But like I said, he's already at 48 this year, and a credit to him. I know the last 3 or 4 years, it's the best shape I've seen him in about 10 years. So he's really he's focused on trying to win another Stanley Cup, and I'm sure this goal scoring is on his mind also. I
want to just tell folks that I've known Ross since he was coach of the Cougars, coached my brother at the U of R. It goes back a day or two, and you'd been with the Canucks and the Sabres, but a long time with the Capitals and won a Stanley Cup. But forgive me for missing the time frame here. Were you there when Ovi came in?
Yes.
You were?
Yes, I was, yeah. I started in Washington in 97.
Okay.
So, yeah, Ovi was, we were very fortunate that year to win the lottery and got to pick him at one.
So. Literally winning the lottery. I'll just say this. You've literally seen him grow up.
Yes. And the first time I saw him, actually, he was a 15-year-old playing in the 17-year-old tournament. And, yeah, so it's been a long time, and like I said, lucky enough to be able to draft him. And it was an interesting year that year because Malkin was also in that draft. But we felt that the hardest thing to do in the NHL is score goals. And so, we took Ovi as our number one pick. We were supposed to pick 3.
Sorry, Ross. I personally think that he'll probably end up the second highest scorer in NHL history. Not quite sure if he'll catch Wayne or not. It's possible. But even if he falls short, when you think about how much more difficult it is to score, where there's less time and space now than there would have been, say, 30 years ago back in, or 40 years ago during Wayne's time, I almost think it's more impressive. Like, I'm not saying he's a better player than Wayne Gretzky, but when you take a look at the sheer volume of goals that Ovi has scored at a time where it's harder to score goals in the last decade or so than ever before with the attention to defense and coaching, like, don't you agree that it's almost amazing that he could put up the numbers he has?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really hard to compare different generations, though. People say that the goaltending equipment was smaller, but I mean, they're also the equipment they have today. The sticks are able to shoot the puck, I think, harder. So all I know is he's the best goal scorer of his generation.
Well, there's far less goals scored now, period. Why that is, I'm not sure. You're just not really seeing 7-6.
Yeah, when you watch those
8-5 games,
old
you're-
tapes of the 80s, like there's the attention to detail and defense wasn't even close to what it is now with the way guys are taught to play. So
It's interesting, Ross, when you say that. I mean, I don't know the conversations you sit around and have. I had one with Wendell Clark. He pointed out that you don't see 3-on-2s anymore. You rarely see 2-on-1s because the game's too fast for that to happen. Has it changed how you do business?
We had to probably take a little closer look at skating and at the size of the players, because before the rules changed, you could kind of hook and hold and run interference and do those sort of things, and kind of bigger, stronger players were able to play. I think some of those players, if they don't have that skating ability and also thinking, very quickly, they've kind of weeded themselves out of the league. But you also still want to have a heavy team. I mean, the Capitals are known as being a very skilled team, but people have no idea actually how big we are. Even Ovechkin is 238 pounds, 6'2" and a half, and that's
Is he really?
That's big.
That's a big player. And then
Holy
had
smoke.
Tom Wilson, 6'4", and you go through our lineup, and one of our smaller players is Dmitry Orlov at about 5'10" and a half, but he weighs 215. So you still have to be strong, physically strong. But I think the smaller players, as far as the 5'11" or 5'10" like Orlov, they can play if they can think the game quickly and they've got quick feet.
Have you heard of this player in Humboldt who's 6'9", 260 players? Is he on your radar yet? Brett Cameron.
Well, we can't give away all our secrets for the Capitals, but I know.
Have you heard of him? That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, Daryl Bumgarner would know about him, our Western Canada scout. So Daryl's responsible for all of that.
Did you hear about him, Kelly? Called up from Beardy's. His first game was with the Humboldt Broncos on Tuesday, and I called it a week ago today. He's 6'9", 260, and he can play. And Scott Barney, the coach, and I agreed. 20 years ago, Ross would have signed him already. He's in the,
How old is
frankly,
he?
he's 17. He's wearing a full face shield.
Yikes.
But he's in the Bugard, Kyle Frederick realm, but can skate better at that age than those guys. Way better than those guys, and way better puck handling skills. So that's the only reason why I brought it out. 6'9", 260 is going to get everybody. Shoot, the Washington Redskins might have identified him already for his sheer size. Now, we have been talking, we had Richie Hall in here yesterday, Ross. He talked about winning the Grey Cup and ending the 29-year drought for Winnipeg and how it felt. You got the Blues last year winning their first ever Stanley Cup. I want to go back to you guys winning it 2 years ago. First ever for the franchise. That almost seems to have been discounted by Western Canada, how big a deal it was, because the Blues, of course, had 3 Saskatchewan kids on their roster. What was it like bringing the Cup home to Washington for the first time ever?
It was unbelievable. We've had a lot of disappointments. We've had a good team for the last 15 years. We perfected losing in the second round of the playoffs, so it was nice to take that next step and be able to win a cup. And for especially a player like Ovechkin, who all I've heard about is how he can't win, when he's won actually everything in hockey except for the Stanley Cup. So to see him win and to see his joy and the happiness and being on the ice there was unbelievable. And I also looked at Dick Patrick, who's our president. He's been there since day one. So he was chasing it for 43 years before he won.
That's
and
a
it's
long
such a
time.
hard thing to win. I mean, people don't realize that. I mean, you talked about St. Louis, you talk about us, and that's 2 franchises, 2 cups. It took them almost 100 years for the 2 teams to win 2 cups. That's how tough it is.
Yeah. It's saying a lot in a big league where everybody's trying to win. It's funny because I just came back from Vegas and we were talking, hence the shirt.
Yeah,
And
I noticed that. I wasn't going to say anything till after, but it's okay.
Yep. Well, that's my team, Ross. I'm sure you know. and they talked about firing the coach, Gerard Gallant. And they said, hey, our owner really wants to win the Stanley Cup. And I'm thinking, so do 30 other ones. But Bill Foley, and not to talk about the Golden Knights, but I guess every owner has high expectations, right? And you know that owner very well in Washington.
Oh, no, for sure.
Yeah.
And Mr. Leonis is a fantastic owner. So once again, it was good to see him rewarded for the way he's treated all the players and the scouts and everybody in the organization. And it was, just really special, almost surreal.
Well, the thing is, it's just cool to get out. And I remember there was one NHL draft. I don't remember which city it was. You might. Or maybe the Capitals have these draft parties every year. but I walked into this pub and you were there, and it was Capitals stuff everywhere. It was jam full of Capitals fans. Again, it might have been Buffalo, it might have been Boston, whatever, but I was like, holy smokes, these fans are serious, right? Do you guys do that every year?
Yeah, we've, there's quite a following, and I think it's, people don't understand maybe in Washington how good the fans are. I mean, we've been sold out ever since Ovechkin's rookie year.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's unbelievable the support that we get. And games are exciting there. They really are. It's a fun rink. It's a fun atmosphere, and yeah, it was great.
You were kind enough to invite me to your party last year at the golf course there when we had the Stanley Cup, and I just remember thinking to myself, of all of the guys that deserves this that I know in hockey, you would be at the top of that list because, as you said earlier, so many really, really good teams, but you could just never seem to get over the hump, and you start to become known. I almost compare it a little bit to the San Jose Sharks. Same type of thing where for years, you win the President's Trophy, or you've got the best team on as far as points at the end of the year, but you just never seem to be able to take it to the next level. And everybody carries and wears that. And just like that, nobody's ever going to say again that Ovechkin or these guys can't win the Stanley Cup. It's all gone. It's erased because you're able to do that. So I felt so happy for you. Was it a little bit like a piano being lifted off your shoulders to some extent?
Oh, no, for sure. I mean, you get to a point where you don't want to doubt yourself, but I was part-time with Vancouver, and we lost the Stanley Cup Finals to the Rangers. And my first year in Washington, we lost the Finals to Detroit. And then, like I said earlier, with all those second-round, disappointments, like I said, we lost in overtime. We'd lose in the last minute. We'd lose in Game 7s. And the back of your mind a little bit, is this ever going to happen?
Yeah.
And then it finally did. And it was, like I said, it was surreal. It was so much fun. And to have the Stanley Cup, to bring it back here into the city and to celebrate with your family and friends was pretty special.
It was great.
We got a question come in from a viewer. Kevin Diaco in Saskatoon says, Ross, how underrated are players such as TJ Oshie that always play great hockey?
Yeah, TJ he's been fantastic for us. For whatever reason, it seems like it's been a real good fit since he came to Washington, but he's not only one of our most skilled players, but probably one of our most inspirational players also. His effort is always fantastic, and maybe a smaller player, but plays big for his size and is excellent 5-on-5, really good on the power play, and really respected by all his teammates.
Donna is watching from Central Butte. She says, could listen to these stories all day. Well, thank you, Donna. We're going to keep it rolling into hour 2. I want to say hi. Kirby Cazell wrote in. He's watching from Suds, Regina. Suds Full Service Car Wash. He's one of our newest sponsors, and they sponsor our 24/7 live stream at rodpeterson.com/listen live. If you can't catch the show live, you can listen anytime at rodpeterson.com. Questions for Ross Mahoney, assistant GM of the Washington Capitals? Fire them our way. We've got a few coming in on the Prairie Mobile text line. We'll get to those in hour 2. 306-840-8777. That's 840-8777. Prairie Mobile, your authorized SaskTel mobility dealer. Coming up in hour 2, more with Ross Mahoney and the Silver Fox, and our NHL insider, Rich Sutter, will be joining us as well. It's the Rod Peterson Show Tuesday morning get-together on Facebook Live and listen live at rodpeterson.com.
You're watching Rod Peterson On Demand. For more of the Rod Peterson Show, visit rodpeterson.com or follow Rod Peterson on social media.